Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. And this is Mysticism of the West Coast Native by Frater George H. Griffen. An article from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 10, Number 1, February 1932. Mysticism of the West Coast Native by Frater George H. Griffen. There's a parable of India concerning the opinions of a certain number of wise, blind men. Each of them, upon encountering an elephant, expresses himself loudly and emphatically. One declared it was a wall because, in his groping, he had happened to feel the rough side of the pachyderm. Another stated that it was a snake, judging from the contour of the animal's trunk. All of them had their say, and they all were both right and wrong. They relied solely upon the sense of touch, by virtue of the fact that sight was denied them. So it is with many of us. When a topic is mentioned, we bring to it certain opinions, biased or otherwise. The foregoing conclusions we either keep to ourselves, remaining silent, or we speak out our views. If we seek light, we listen, learn, and interpret. Sometimes our interpretations are warped, and our comprehension of a subject suffers therefrom. It has been necessary for the writer to delve into the life, habits, religion, and mythology of the native of the west coast of North America, while seeking material of a specific nature. It was unavoidable that certain facts should be unearthed, which apparently had but little value. Like one of the blind men, herein before mentioned, this data had been observed, commented upon, and mentally stored for future use. It is the purpose of this brief article to present to the student of mysticism definite information concerning the so-called Indian who, at one time, lived within sight of the Pacific Ocean, occupying territory from the mouth of the Columbian River to the frozen borders of Eskimo or Inuit land. These natives today are but miserable remnants of an ancient and glorious race. They were decadent when Lewis and Clark first visited their settlements. Their sun had set when Captain Gray discovered and explored the mouth of the Columbia, steeped in fetishism, ridden by shamans or medicine men, who wielded enormous power over them spiritually. They were nevertheless a splendid people physically. When the white man attempted to civilize them, the results were disastrous to the native. Space did not permit to deal with each of the component nations, of which there were several. Because of their insular location, the Haida of the Queen Charlotte Islands offer an interesting explanation. Rightfully has the warrior race of settlers been called the Children of the Sun. They differed radically from the Indians of the Plains, being in no way like them in any respect. One of the chief articles of wealth among the Haida was the copper. These objects of shield-like forms of virgin copper, beaten thin and with tapered edges, were called Taushuas. The significance of the appellation will be more startling when one has a mental picture of the article. Measuring about 2 feet long and about half as wide, it was shaped like a buckler, only it was never used as a mode of defense in fighting. The plate, in its lower half, was dented to form a letter T, or a tau cross. Where these symbols of wealth came from, not even the native appeared to know. This may have been wisdom on his part, for he was a shrewd trader. But the question is this: what did the sign upon the copper signify? The plate was reversed. In some cases, special lodges were erected in which they were placed. The Haida were firm believers in reincarnation. A great many of their songs, especially the lullabies, indicate this. These crooning melodies were sung principally to the offspring of noble families by female slaves who attended them. Who originally taught them this philosophy? Numbers play, and have played, an important part in symbology, as every Rosicrucian is aware. Why then did the early West Coast native always use 7 wedges, either of wood or bone, to split his logs for the purpose of marking boards? 7 were used, no more and no less. These were driven in one at a time by means of a stone hammer. During certain ceremonies, it was necessary for the individual to get in touch with the subtle forces of nature. To do so, he would journey alone into the forest, to remain for 4 days. During that period, no food was partaken of by him, and personal cleanliness had to be as perfect as possible. From whence came this custom originally, and why exactly 4 days? Sickness rarely troubled the native. It was a case of the survival of the fittest. But there were occasions when a chief or a noble became ill. Failing all other methods, a system of breathing was restored to in an endeavor to banish the disease. The shaman was the doctor. Using a tube, either the radius or ola bone from the wing of an eagle, he breathed into the mouth or nostrils of his patient. Whether suggestion or otherwise accomplished a cure, no scientific records state, but there is a principle hidden in the method. Where did the native derive this from? Extant among the Haida songs and myths were many stories woven about a deity of more than ordinary powers. This assertion applies also to the other adjacent nations, the only difference being that the personage was called by various names. It is remarkable how closely he resembled the sun god of the Mayans and the Aztecs. Without a doubt, he visited this earth and was known, in almost every instance, as a benefactor of mankind. The great raven totems of the Aborigines of the Queen Charlotte Islands were erected to this honor. Some of the legends indicate that he was born of a virgin, others that he had his origin in a drop of pure water. Knowing these facts, did the Haida and their closely related neighbors possess an avatar? Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.